Messiah Hampton set to announce his commitment not tomorrow, but the 13th. Not exactly sure where he's leaning. I know he's got a crystal ball to Oregon, but very rarely those guys are wrong. So 2026 receiver, 6'1", 180 from James Monroe in Rochester, New York. So not a school I'm very familiar with. Let's get going. You guys know where he ended up, so let me know if you think he's a good fit for your school or anything that excites you about this kid. Some of these, I haven't watched much Rochester football, but there's just something about New York football. They always have these field angles. It's never like on the top. I always feel like I'm like on the sideline. I remember watching KJ Duff somewhere in Long Island, similar situation, but that's okay. I'll hold my thoughts until a bit later. In the meantime, like I said, feel free to let me know what you guys think. Like talking to y'all. I think there's a whole lot to like about this kid. At 6'1", he's got not a plus frame, but on the bigger end of things, right? He's not going to dominate with his size, but I think he does a good job. I think he's got a good vertical, does a very good job attacking the ball at the high point. So in that, I feel good about that. You ever see another one? Oh, he's on defense here. I feel good about him there. As a route runner, I feel very good about him as well. I think he's got a really good release. I think the best trait that we've seen so far is his explosiveness. It doesn't take that long for him to get going. And you see that as a route runner where he's already a step or two ahead of the kids trying to defend him. He's certainly outclassing these kids athletically that he's playing against. This is a similar kind of good play to highlight what I'm trying to explain here. He's passed this kid in 10 yards, which is kind of hard to do, to just make up 5 yards just like that. Kid was 5 yards off the ball. Certainly outclassing the kids that he's playing against. I think he's a good route runner, really good route runner. Really like his change of direction ability. And yeah, you'll see him. You see the explosiveness show up, here when he's out wide and lined up. But you also see it when we saw some of these smoke screens where they're just giving him the ball and blockers, and they're just asking him to go forward. You kind of see the stop start ability is very good. Just a well-rounded receiver. I feel good about him at all three phases of receiver. Him before he has the ball, him getting the ball, and then him with the ball in his hands. So when you're watching a kid, I don't mean to shit on New York football, but you look at the stats, they just don't put that many kids into college football. You can argue with a wall, but statistically, they just haven't done it. When you're watching a kid from one of these states that historically haven't put that much talent at the next level, you have to be blown away by the film. You can't just kind of like a kid after watching him. He has to be better than everybody on the field. And I think if we were watching all 22, an actual football game, like if me and you, if we went to this kid's game, I don't even know, somewhere in Rochester, we just went, we just got tickets somehow and we didn't know this kid existed. I think it would take about 2 plays for us to realize who's the 4-star athlete on the field. You can't really say that about Georgia or Florida football just because. I mean, look at this. This kid's not even going to be thinking about playing defense at the next level, and he's been laying kids out. What was the point I was trying to make? Yeah, that's not me being derogatory to New York. That's just not one of the things that they do. They just historically haven't produced football players, and certainly think this kid just outclasses everybody on the field. And like I said, you kind of have to. You can't trust your eyes as much. You kind of have to expect a bit more from the kid, and I certainly think he lives up to the expectations in that regard. And these at the end of this tape here, we're starting to see the mentality stuff also, which is nice. The stock blocking, him on defense. Football's a physical game. So I'm a big fan of this kid. A lot of times when I see there's a highly ranked prospect from a school or a state that historically doesn't produce that many, I'm like, okay, this kid probably has 1 or 2 traits that stood out to schools, and they're like, yeah, he hasn't had the best coaching. We'll bring him in, and maybe in a year or two, we'll round out his game. He'll be a good football player down the line. Not the case with this kid. I think this kid's very good very well-rounded receiver. Not just one trait kid. A kid I think that he'll see the field early, and I think down the road we could be talking. I'm not going to set any crazy expectations, but I do think given the right situation and given the right program, I think this kid could develop into something really special. What stood out to me, very explosive. I think the cuts happen really quickly, and he's pretty good at the catch point also. Him being 6'1", he's just never going to be like a 6'4", guy that's just going to be able to just spam the throws to him. But I think this kid's going to separate at a high clip early, and then very excited to see how he turns out. So thanks for watching. Let me know what you think about this kid and anybody else you want me to watch.